Welcome back to Memphis Progtime. It's been a couple weeks. I've been away dealing with some health issues. It's getting back to normal, but I'm sitting here right now about to do an interview with Jordan Rudess of the band Dream Theater, Liquid Tension Experiment, a million other things I could keep going on and on about. But instead of me telling you, I'll let Jordan tell you. Jordan, how are you doing today?
Well, just getting started, got a busy day. I recently basically finished doing all the keyboard tracks for the new or the next Dream Theater album. We're not going to see that for a while, so everybody don't start jumping up and down all at once. Probably around October or something like that, it'll be released. I don't have a date yet. Did that, feel really good about that. It's very exciting.
Awesome.
I told John Petrucci the other day that it doesn't seem like we're slowing down very much. If anything, we're picking it up. So I don't know what kind of vitamins everybody's eating, but whatever they are, they seem to be working.
Yeah, because you guys just released LT. Well, it's not out yet. March 26th, the new Liquid Tension
It
Experiment album
actually
comes
was
out.
scheduled for March 26th, but
That's
now
right.
it's delayed as everything is being delayed. I'm finding out more and more about things in general being delayed due to obvious reasons. So now it's scheduled for April 16th, which it looks like we should be able to do.
Very cool. And that was just like a pressing issue. It wasn't like you guys had an issue with the album, on your end.
No, it was, we just got a letter one day from the record company, and basically Sony was saying that they're having issues, with their big, because this is a big physical printing, we still
Sure.
do a lot of physical merchandise. So yeah, whatever company handles that very large kind of bulk of, material was not able to meet March 26th.
Well, I have to say, like I've had the album for a couple weeks now, and it's my first fear was because it had been so long. How different is it going to be? And
Hmm.
while it's different, there's a lot of those melodies that you guys always come up with that just are amazing. On this album, what is your favorite thing that on your end or on the whole band's end?
Yeah, well, that's interesting that you bring that up, because like one thing I was a little bit concerned with, well, in general, Liquid, when we do these projects, whether it be 22 years ago or now, they're done pretty quickly. I mean, we go into the studio, we go crazy, we get inspired, we write stuff, we hash it out, and then we're done after a couple weeks, and then we take a little bit more time and do our tracking, our individual
Sure.
tracking, and make all that happen. But there was a little bit of extra pressure on this one, because it's probably been the most requested, not even probably, it's definitely been the most requested project in my whole life. I think for everybody, like, not a day went by, do liquid tension, we want this, we want this. So I felt a little bit like, wow, got to come up with the goods here, it better be good. And then I was realizing that there's not much time to make it happen. So I was, a bit concerned, because, I think every creator is kind of, oh, they're writing a book, doing an article, creating a symphony, or doing a rock album. You kind of feel like, wow, I did it the last time, but can I do it again? It's
Right.
always this questioning, and especially it's hard to get in, like the first process in any creative endeavor, I always find is the hardest. And then once you kind of dive in and start doing it, then it starts to flow. So my concern was that maybe the muse wouldn't be with me on the 2-week thing, and what am I going to do if it's not? But I want to make sure that things are cool and I have the elements that I want. So for some reason, I in all the different elements that come into Liquid Tension Experiment, I was concerned with having the melodic element, the melodies. I wanted to have
Sure.
parts that were good feeling, melodic. I wasn't as worried about the more driving, rockin' stuff. I mean, because first of all, well, I wasn't as worried about that. So I ended up putting together a bunch of seeds beforehand, and just kind of like thinking, I really want to have this melodic stuff. I want it to feel good. And so just sat down before the sessions, recorded a bunch of really short clips of melodies and things I thought would be cool, and brought them in. And it turned out the muse was with us in a big way, and then, you know, all the inspiration flowed. It was, you know, just very natural. We got right into the flow of things. It was great. And I also had these seeds, so we were pretty much, you know, in a good place. And I was glad that I brought them in, because I think a lot of the things that you know, I love about it are these melodic. I love, you know, the melodic element of Liquid Tension, when, like, you know, there's these big chords, or John's playing a soaring melody over nice changes, and it's just like almost like a feel good music, you know. And in the progs, a little happier, a little bit more like open spirited, and I find that that's something that I love about this particular you know, group that we did, you know, way back when, and that we still do now.
Very cool. What I noticed, and this kind of goes against maybe what everyone thinks of Dream Theater or you guys, like on the song Liquid Evolution, it's so reserved and held back. Like, you know where you expect it to be John going into a really soaring, rippling melody, or you going into something rippling, you stay grounded and you stayed melodic and just building and building and building. And I thought that was really, I don't want to say out of character, but interesting, you know.
That tune, I think, was a little like in the spirit of the song we had in the past called Osmosis.
Right.
You know, we kind of, like, you know, I honestly have to say, mostly due to like the kind of Portnoy-ish, and John is also great at this too, their type of thinking. There was a lot of thinking about ways to kind of make things come together. Like, you know, we never, in my whole life with Dream Theater and Liquid Tension Experiment, we've never gone into an album without a lot of conceptual thought about what's going to happen, how to make it happen. And, you know, left to my own accord, I go in the studio and create things like Wired for Madness, which is just basically madness. But with those guys, they're very strong when it comes to architecture of the group, of the album. There's something about it, and I think that that's part of what makes this new album really very connected, you know, on that level, and something, you know.
Yeah, like I noticed, like the Chris and Kevin theme came back from the first album.
There's themes, and people appreciate that. People appreciate that, and, like,
definitely.
You know, and Mike is always thinking about that kind of stuff, and that's cool, because you know, it helps. People relate to it. They appreciate it. It's cool.
Yeah, and I think for the new fans, it might give them a reason to want to go back to those old albums and check them out again. So for you, as a musician who's been doing this since you were a little kid, what do you still feel that brings you back to writing in the style that you do? Whether it's your solo album that's coming out. When is the new solo album coming out?
My new solo album, I released it on Bandcamp last Friday.
Oh, it's already out. Okay.
Yeah, it just came out.
So what brings you back to writing, whether it's solo material, Liquid Tension stuff, Dream Theater, in the style that you do? Because, well, I mean, you've been writing, well, with Dream Theater, you've been doing it for 22 years now?
With Dream Theater, yeah, that's right, about 22 years. Wow.
Yeah, it's crazy. It doesn't feel that long.
No, it's really wild.
But with, you know, and of course you were with the Dixie Dregs for a little while before that, and then the Morgan Rudess, the Rudess Morgan theme. Sorry,
that's a mouthful, right? Sorry to put you through that, especially after this, you know, latest health crisis.
I could have found another word to use, you know.
That album with that drummer guy, you know.
That guy, you know. But
that would have worked.
And of course, your tenure with Jan Hammer and all that kind of stuff. You know, I mean, you've been doing this 40 years in this style, or at least somewhat in this style. What keeps bringing you back and wanting to do that, and not? I mean, because of course you could do a classical album if you wanted to. You could do just about anything you wanted to, I think.
Yeah, and I do, right? Like, you know, like my Explorations album, which was basically like a concerto for keyboard and orchestra.
Right.
And actually, A Chapter in Time is probably the most gentle, mellow thing I've ever put out. It's all this new solo album is really, it's all based on very kind of trippy, magical, if you will, piano sounds. It was all done with virtual instruments, but it's all around a piano. And it's kind of like, I've been telling people, it's like a musical diary. It was created during the kind of like initial lockdown period when, everybody was just so like thrown for a big loop by everything that was going on. And I would go into the studio and I would just capture my feelings and thoughts just with music. And so really, really gentle, kind of, thoughtful, maybe even sometimes sounds a little bit sad or whatever, album. So what keeps me going back to it, I mean, whether it's the proggy stuff like Liquid Tension or Dream Theater or Rudess Morgenstein Project, or something more on the mellow side like Unforgotten Path, which is another one of my piano albums, or Chapter in Time. It's just that in my life, ever since I was a kid, the way that I've expressed myself most comfortably and probably most accurately is with music. I would use it as an emotional, music has been an emotional release for me. It's a way that it's very healing. It's very cathartic to go in and just like make this music and be expressive like that. And as a big improviser too, that helps. I mean, I just sit down at the piano and I can play, for hours, and, you will have not ever heard anything that, I'm playing before. You'll be like, what's that? I'll be like, I don't know, I'm just playing. So a really good friend of mine in the Paul Winter Consort, which was another group I worked on years ago, I was, I don't know, waiting for the rehearsal to start, and I was just playing, and he said to me, what is that you're playing? I said, I don't know, I'm just messing around. He said, Jordan, he says, you throw away more good music than most people make in their lifetime. I'm like, okay, but I love improvisation. I love for me, it's like what we're doing. We're just chatting,
Sure.
This stuff's coming out, and if I'm at the piano, stuff's coming out, things are flowing. So that's what, that's just my life, that's what keeps me going back to it, or I'm just not even going back to it. I'm always in it,
Well, like the one thing that it's funny. There's I'm working on a movie soundtrack right now that's being done here in Memphis. And there was a piece of music the other day. I'm not a piano player. I'm a guitar player. And so I only can do so much in terms of explaining what I'm hearing from a piano standpoint.
Mhm.
And there was a string piece that we were looking for something to make it sound bigger.
Right.
And so we're going through like, what about a didgeridoo? And what about this? And what about that? And all it was sitting at the piano and playing a simple chord. And I was like, that's it. It's the piano. And I used your version of Yellow by Coldplay that you just released.
Oh, just did that recently. Yeah.
As an explanation of what I was hearing.
Oh, that's cool.
String standpoint. And what I liked about that, and even like when you play Lazarus with Steven Wilson, there's just some bootleg videos out there of that. Is that while you're playing the chords and you're keeping the melody going, it's that improv stuff that you love to do and you're known for,
Yeah.
And I think that just really helps a piece, a simple, what could be a simple piece, sounds so much fuller and more lively and interesting.
Yeah. Oh, that's really cool. Glad that was helpful. Yeah. I mean, that's, I guess, that kind of approach, whether it's simple or more kind of like fluid and with more notes, it's kind of what I've like developed or been drawn to, with my style. I like putting the melody like, in the top voice of what I'm doing and filling in. And one of the things I teach a lot is how to keep a melody going, but fill in the chords, but being able to find the inversion. So even if your melody is basically over a C chord, but you have to follow the melody, means you're going to be playing the C chord in different positions, throughout. So how do you become, fluid at finding or the trick? One of the tricks is being able to be really fluid, whether you're a guitarist or you're a keyboard player. I can play C here, I can play it here, I can play here, like going up the neck. Like, can you find like every position of C as you move up the neck? On the keyboard, it's similar. Of course, on the keyboard, there's an additional challenge, which every, chord is in a totally different position. You play C major, it's like this, and D flat, it's like this. It's like,
Yeah.
and from that point of view, that part is harder on a keyboard instrument. There's other things, of course, that are harder on a guitar, but
Sure. Now, you're someone who loves technology, at least from everything I can tell.
yeah,
What is, I guess, for a traditionalist, which a lot of musicians in the prog world maybe consider themselves a little more traditional than going into the virtual world of instrumentation. What as a draw, when you first came up with your apps on the iPad, what was the thought process at the very beginning of that? Was there a little bit of that? How's it going to be? How are people going to relate to this? Because it's not a real keyboard or a real guitar
yeah.
or whatever.
Well, actually, the thought process was that I got the original iPhone many years ago. I don't have to look up and see how many years ago that was at this point. Many years ago.
At least 10.
And yeah, oh yeah, more than that.
Yeah.
I just kind of like, I don't know. I think I bought the original one, or found one in a store, whatever it was. I picked it up and I started to like move my finger on the surface, and just kind of like thinking, wow, this is interesting because, it's like a multi-touch kind of surface. I can touch anywhere. I can move this way, and I can just really kind of do this particular kind of movement on this. And although there wasn't any kind of visual that was worth anything or any audio coming out of it that that was enjoyable, I still had in my head that there were a lot of possibilities. I really had a vision of what I wanted. So what I really wanted to do is I wanted to connect the audio and the visual world together and kind of merge them to see if I could really merge them as one with a musical instrument. And I kept my eye on the very beginnings of the App Store, the iTunes App Store, iOS App Store, to look for somebody who could perhaps help me bring this vision to life. And I found a programmer who was doing something very simple with lines on the screen that made sound. Like you could put a scale and you could have lines on the screen. Called him up, and to make a long story short, turned out to be this amazing person who totally related to my vision, wanted to help me make it happen. And that year we made an app called MorphWiz, which in those days you had, Billboard had a competition for the best music app.
Oh, that's right.
So, and it won the #1 place for the Billboard Music App Award. So it really helped because, first of all, it was a vision or a dream come true, because I was able to make a good sound with a pretty cool looking, visual that worked. And it just kind of put this audio and visual thing together. It was, so I kind of got this interesting start at using this multi-touch technology to have a business. It actually looked, I don't know if you've ever seen it, but it looked a little like, I'll show you. Here's the app. Has this kind of vibe.
Oh, I downloaded one of them, but that's the one with more of the blocks that you connect.
This one, so this one has like,
Okay,
every screen is
very cool.
that kind of thing. So then my newest app is called GeoShred, and
That's the one I have.
yeah, GeoShred is the latest and greatest app. That's a very kind of important piece of technology to me, especially these days, because we're doing a lot of things with it.
Yeah.
That's more like a platform. But anyway, so there was that part of it that I got this kind of like, start in that world of making instruments for this kind of interesting touch. And I've been very involved with not only my own apps and doing things like what I showed you, but also with the companies that are producing hardware instruments that are trying to be, expressive and using new technology and using this thing called MPE, which is like polyphonic expression, where you can have like one pitch going this way and this one going another way, instead of like the thought of, most people understand that on most keyboards you play a chord, you move the pitch wheel and everything moves.
Yeah.
So in this particular idea that I've been working on since before it was called MPE. You have this whole idea of having every finger that goes down on an instrument be completely independent. So that's, I've been working with Rowley, and I work with Lippold Hawken on it, on that instrument that's called the Continuum.
Right.
And the Linstrument, which is Roger Lynn's instrument, helped him a little bit with being involved with that. And yeah, so I'm passionate about that. And the other part of it is that ever since I discovered the Mini Moog many years ago, when I left the classical world and got into all the synthesis stuff, I've been so passionate about sound. I mean, I'm like a sound freak, like I used to play the Mini. I was the opposite of like one of my heroes, Rick Wakeman, because when Rick played the Mini Moog, he basically put his knobs in one spot and taped, where they should go and play it and had this cool sound. I always had one hand on the knobs and one hand on the keys, and I was creating like space music,
Yeah.
Like,
Didn't you used to do some of those space concerts like that? I know.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
With Richard Lane Hart when he was alive, and
Yeah.
yeah. So
I at least the one good thing, I have a friend down in Texas who, older gentleman who has been in the music industry for a long time, who has some of those modular keyboard rigs still. And I always feel like I just want to go up and plug everything, like just move it around on him.
Yeah, right, sure, exactly.
Because I mean, that's a lot to carry.
I used to carry around my huge modular Moog system, or it's made by synthesizers.com, and a guy named Roger Arick. But it looks like a big Moog thing.
Yeah.
And I had it on like the Octavarium tour, and I pulled it because I realized that, it weighs about almost 300 pounds. And I was like, you know what? That's not fair to do to the guys who are lifting this stuff
Right.
up every day. I can make the sound on my app, like we're close enough,
Yeah.
So yeah, but I'm passionate about sound, and I'm drawn to it. And even though I don't consider myself in many ways a technical person, I love the fact that with technology, we can make new instruments that are more expressive, and we can achieve sounds we've never heard before. And from that point of view, I am a technology person.
Sure.
Because I feel like that's the way we connect our mental, physical beings with the sonic world and the ability to control it. And so therefore, I guess I am a technical person, because I'm interested in how we can use the tools of today to have a more magical, better experience at making music and making art and this life.
It's interesting how, like, I mean, when you started playing rock or fusion, whichever style you want to call it, you had to carry all that stuff regardless of what new stuff was there, because you couldn't get a Moog sound unless you were playing a Moog, and you couldn't get an Art Odyssey sound unless you're playing an Art Odyssey or whatever it was. And so today, to be able to do that, I mean, even with Center Stage, it's Center Stage or Main Stage, the program you put on your computer, and you have all that built in. And so I mean, while it makes life easier in terms of not having to carry stuff, I think a lot of people find it daunting. That people who are anti-technology find it daunting, the programming aspect.
Yeah, right. Well, you know what, when you don't know something and it's a different world, it's like stepping onto another planet, if you will. Yeah, it's scary. And a lot of that stuff we build up. Like, how the hell am I going to learn that program? I don't know how to do that. I think that's one of the biggest things that prevent people from just being more fluid and being more easy about it, because the reality is those programs, the hard part is programming them. If you're the coding guy, just to learn what you have to do to, like, move a node, or like, copy and paste something from here to there, or like, load in an application, or it's not that hard. A lot of those things are not that hard. We build them up in our brains. We think, oh, I can't do that because I don't know how to do it, but it's not really true.
Well, I think anyone who listens to my show would want to, stab me if I didn't ask you. You mentioned the whole Dream Theater album earlier.
Yeah.
I know you can't talk a lot about it. I'm not going to try to pry too many details out of you, but
Yeah.
what can you say? What do you feel about the album at this point? Of course, I know everyone, when you finish an album, it's the greatest album I've ever done, but you
Sure.
know, in terms of what you're feeling about where the album's heading now, in terms of thematically, maybe, what do you feel?
Yeah. Well, yeah, I'm really excited about it. It's I don't know. It's hard. It's going to be hard to wait for people to hear it because it's just really energized. It feels like we're like 20 years old or something here.
Oh, really?
This album.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Because everybody's playing their ass off and it really does sound better than anything else we've ever done. And I guess that's, because every album we learn more about sound and how to what to do with our own instruments and what to do from an engineering recording side. And it's definitely we've upped the game on this. There's no doubt about it. There's still more work to do on it as well. I just happened to finish my keyboard parts the other day.
Sure.
But I think people can expect to have a really fresh, strong of like Dream Theater. If you're a Dream Theater fan, you're gonna lose your shit, I think, when you hear this. I mean, I really do think so.
That's
So
awesome.
also, I think we got to stop at 10:30 because I have another
No
Roy
problem. No
thing
problem.
to say. Yeah,
Well, let's pack up or wrap it up.
yeah,
Jordan, I want to thank you very much. Radio Memphis. We have right now. I have the new Liquid Tension Experiment album. I'm going to start playing coming up this week. When
yeah,
I'm back on the show, I'll play it along with the interview, or at least the songs that I can play. I'll play along with the interview.
yeah, yeah.
And you know, I would love to be able to play your solo album. Uh,
I
well,
can send it.
I can get through Roy or whatever, however that works.
Yeah, I'll just send me your contact information,
Okay,
uh, and I'll send it to you.
awesome, man.
How about that?
Thanks, sounds good. I'll make sure Roy gets my contact info to send over to you,
That's
and
perfect.
we'll
And
uh, we'll
yeah.
go from there.
And also, I wanted people to know who listen to your show that they should check out my Patreon because I've been having a great time with that ever since the whole world shut down. I started giving away all the music for free and just like streaming every day, and then I realized, you know what? As much as this is cathartic for me and nice thing for everybody, I can't be doing that because it's the wrong message to be sending to the world right now.
Right.
Music is not free, so I was looking for a way to keep doing what I do, which is I love to share. I like people. I like to interact. So I found Patreon and it's been awesome. And I've just been developing this really cool community and it's enabled me to do all the sharing that I want. But it also gives people the opportunity to give back a little bit. The other day I had Mike Portnoy on and we were, shooting the shit and we had a great conversation, a lot of fun, showed some, a few videos and that was cool. And next month I'm going to have a nice surprise guest. And I do a lot of educational stuff and a lot of streaming, set up this whole room with cameras and, lights and all this crap. And it's been amazing. So, would love for people to check it out.
Very cool, man. Well, thank you again, and
Awesome.
I have a great day. And everybody, April 16th, new Liquid Tension Experiment LTE3. It's awesome.
Oh, cool.
You need to go get it.
Yeah.
So Jordan, oh, go ahead.
And last Friday on Bandcamp, exclusively at this point, A Chapter in Time is my new solo album.
Awesome.
Over to
So
Band.
everyone, Monday night. Wow, you don't even know the date. This coming Monday, I think it's the 21st.
That's a good way to do it. Yeah.
I'll be playing this interview with Jordan, as well as some Liquid Tension Experiment music, and hopefully his new solo album. And Jordan, thank you, and hopefully we'll talk again.
Awesome. Nice to see you. Hey, feel better.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it.
Take care, my friend. Bye-bye.